My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
At Vertex, we know the pace of global commerce is increasing, which makes managing tax more complex. And your enterprise systems weren't built to handle that tax complexity. This is where we come in, with our platform that enables continuous compliance, giving you more transparency, improved accuracy, and better confidence in your tax data. To learn more about continuous compliance, visit vertexinc.com.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast. My name's Dan Kennett, and with me to talk about the first defeat of the season, I'm afraid it's Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 1. But to brighten all your days, I do have a very special guest for the first time live from his tropical island paradise. It's Dr. Phil Barts.
How are we doing, boys? We good?
Good evening. It is evening over there, Phil, right? You get me there?
Yeah, it's 10:20. Yeah, it's evening.
3 hours ahead of the UK.
3 hours ahead, yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. That must be quite good. For some of the kickoff times must be quite good then.
Well, this is the annoying thing, right? This 3 o'clock was perfect. 6 o'clock, kids are having dinner, nice time to sit in as family, first time on the island, and we get beat. Yeah, it was wonderful.
So the only one that's going to be more tricky is the evening kickoffs, yeah? That'll be
tomorrow night is. I doubt I'll make it past the first half an hour because that's an 8 o'clock kickoff, so that's 11 here.
Yeah. Anyway, nice to have you back.
Anyway.
Nice to have you back, mate. We don't have Hamzah this week. He is otherwise engaged. He's at Birmingham versus Birmingham Wrexham tonight. The Hollywood game. Is it Championship or League One? It's been shown live on American TV. It's nuts. Anyway, it's because it's bloody. Is it Tom Brady involved with Birmingham? Or something.
Tom Brady got Birmingham. Yeah, Birmingham, yeah. So it's Birmingham against Liverpool, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan and but they've got their own TV show anyway. Anyway, but you just heard him. It's Mr. Simon Brundish. He's also with us evening side.
Evening, boys. This is going to be I think this is going to be an interesting pod, given it's the first one that hasn't been ultra positive. Easily positive. That's the difference.
Yeah, but it's also going to be interesting though, still, because we're still going to be talking about different stuff. There's still lots and lots to talk about, which is completely different to how things used to be. But anyway, let's get straight into it, right? And we are going to start with the genesis of this game, which I guess is the international break side. And you haven't done any fatigue index, I don't think, for Anfield Index since the season started. So I think it's time for a little mini fatigue index to bring us up to speed with where we are, because this was a bit of a mother of an international break for our squad, wasn't it?
Really, really was. So this is the most intense, in terms of minutes played, international break that Liverpool have had that since I've been tracking the data. We've got a lot of players that play international football now, a whole bunch of young ones, but a lot of players that play full games. We had 5 players play 2 full games, which is in at this stage of the international cycle where it's not like late end qualifiers where you're do or die. Most of the games were the competition that they avoid friendlies with.
The Nations League, yeah.
The Nations League, is what UEFA they decided that no one cared about friendlies, and the international companies decided that they couldn't make money off friendlies anymore, and they couldn't justify it to clubs. They couldn't argue with clubs because they kept pulling out. Players kept pulling out.
Yeah,
that they invented a competition that no one cares about, no one knows is on, and now players actively want that they don't drop out. And for some reason, we're burning lads up for these competitions.
So you've been tracking this for at least 5 years, right?
7
years. So this was the most international minutes we've ever had our squad had played. But we have more regular, players now. I mean, because Trent was never a regular, as we know. Grav was never a regular. Now he is. Konate's back in with France. But so I think there was 11 players who played at least an hour, right, in 2 of the games, in both games.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So, how did it look like? I mean, obviously we avoided injury, other than Elliott's, I guess, which is not even a soft tissue. It's ankle, right? Ankle ligaments. Do we think?
No, it's a broken foot.
Broken foot. Shit. Yeah. Okay, so like metatarsal kind of.
Broken metatarsal. Yeah.
So he's probably looking at 2 months out, right?
Yeah. 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
He's young.
Yeah, he's young, but it also depends on what he actually did. So in these 2 games, we played 2,947 minutes of football for our lads, and the most we'd peaked out before was 2,504. So this is 400 and basically this is nearly 5 games more than our squad have ever had to tolerate before, including youth players, so including age groups. And most of our age group lads weren't even playing because they're on loan, so I'm not even counting those against. These are actual first teamers that are playing that volume of minutes.
Yeah. So it's actually all easier to say who didn't play in the internationals, wasn't it? And it was basically, I've just got 5 players. Nunes.
Yeah, who was banned. Otherwise, he would have done.
Gomez, who was unused. Jones.
Yeah.
Who would apparently, Hamzah tells us, would have played. Carsley would have played him if he'd been fully fit. But he wasn't. Chiesa, who's building stuff back up, isn't he, obviously?
Who was also a first choice.
Yeah. And Tyler Morton. I think that's the only other one I can think. Spots, right?
And Harvey.
Yeah, and Harvey, who was injured. Yeah. But
so no, Tyler Morton playing on the 21s.
Did he as well? Okay, even Tyler played then. Okay.
So our full squad, they're all with somebody. The only one that wasn't really was Gomez and Darwin. They're suspended, and you're left with a whole bunch of lads who played at a whole lot of games. Yeah. So you've got I've tried to run on here, there's a lot of conversations in S&C and in Premier League in particular, because we have the most foreign players over here, trying to quantify with Darren Burgess, who used to be Liverpool's.
The Australian dude.
The Australian dude, he was at Arsenal as well. He is at one of the AFL clubs, and he is basically heading up FIFA Pros. I don't know if you guys followed it or you remember that basically FIFA Pro are trying to sue FIFA over the international calendar because it's too much for players. So he's heading up the sports science research for that. And they've put out the last 2 international breaks, they put out 2 different data packs on travel, on the consequence of playing load and how much more they're playing than before. And then also they've looked at young players and the consequence of like Jude Bellingham playing so much as a young player and what it's like for Rooney and Owen and all that kind of stuff. I actually did some research on this a couple of years ago. That players that play, I talk about it a lot, players that play more than 3,000 minutes before they're in a season before they're 20, they're much more likely to burn out by the time they're 25. So their peak year happens way earlier, and then they drop off a cliff. And so FIFA Pros have started to see this, and they want to put some kind of rules in place to prevent internationals from picking young players so early, because it's so much easier now to get into international football. I'm going off at a tangent here. If anybody watched...
Well, Lamine Yamal, obviously, is this is going to be the poster child for this study kind of stuff, isn't he? Look how much he's played at age 16.
Already, on top of, like, Pedri.
Yeah.
Barcelona are the killers. How many... I was talking to my son about this. We're going off a big tangent here. Yesterday, he was saying, did you see Yamal? And I'm like, I don't really care. It's like, but he's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah. How many times have you been able to see this from a Barcelona prospect that's got in the team at 16 and 17? And they're amazing, and then you don't see them again after they're 19. Mm-hmm. Like, he's only my son's 16, and he could name 3 of them.
One of the midfielder lads has got a horrific stress fracture, hasn't he?
Stress fracture.
Yeah, Pedri. I don't know which one is it. There's 2 of them. Is Phil? It's Pedri and the other dude, and Gavi. Yeah, one of them's got a really bad stress fracture. Anyway,
yeah, really good plan.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway. So you've started trying to look at travel, and then for the first time you factored in travel into fatigue index, and so basically what Edward really wants to know is who came back, who was looking hot, and who was on the running hot, and who were you going to have to manage?
Yeah, so where we typically previously used the Tim Gabbett's acute chronic workload ratio to predict fatigue index, to give us a fatigue index of loading games, these things, it tends to be really accurate, not in weeks where we have 1 game a week, because I have no idea what the training load is, so it's impossible for me to put that in. I can guess, because there are very standard loading patterns that you have, but it's very accurate from here on out, where we've got multiple games a week and there is no training load going on. So it's good at predicting who should be in teams, and it's good at predicting who's going to get injured. So I layered on a new metric looking at travel. So there is there's research that documents the impacts of traveling time zones. Crossing time zones. There is research of long haul travel within 48 hours of playing. That increases injury risk as well, and then like overall mileage as well. So I put in ratios for any per 1,000 miles traveled, for crossing. Once you've crossed 2 time zones, then I've got a fatigue ratio added in per extra time zones, and then whether you travel, yes or no, for within 48 hours after travels. Long haul.
Oh, okay.
Long haul would be 3,000.
So you're contributing to the FIFA Pro study here in your own way. You're sending all your information to Darren Burgess, aren't you, as well?
We actually have talked about it. So
brilliant. Good luck, and I'm sure you'll get yourself a slice of that FIFA pie, say.
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? God, they give so much money out.
So who was top then?
Of everybody, so factoring in. So this is how it works, right? The ratio is, the typical ratio we work with is your acute workload this week versus the average week of the previous 4 weeks. Does that make sense? So if this week crosses 1.3 times the previous average, that's a red spike. Yeah. So you don't increase more than 30% on your previous 3 weeks average.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And so 1.35 is already red. Mm-hmm. 1.5, you're getting on fire at this point. Mm-hmm. So just for context, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players on red before this game.
Yeah.
The highest, remember that 1.3 ratio, the highest is 7.3.
That's going to be some nominal minutes though, right?
Yeah, nominal minutes coming in, and massive travel workload.
And who was that? Endo.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had to fly 18 hours to Japan.
So yeah, Endo had to. We'll just quickly go over how much, boringly, how much distance that our lads had to cover. So we've replaced Africans who, bear in mind, most still had to do 11,800.
Not bad for time zones though, but yeah.
Not bad for time zones. Yeah, exactly that. So we had 11,800 miles, but only 4 time zones crossed.
Yeah.
Right? We've added this whole bunch of South Americans, and I had never factored in quite how far away it was, but had not even an idea of how big it is.
Yeah.
Right? So we got Diaz.
So like Buenos Aires, 7 hours, is it? Colombia, 9 hours?
Buenos Aires is like 11 hours.
11 hours, wow. Yeah.
Buenos Aires is further south than Australia.
Jesus Christ.
And time zones as well. Yeah.
My geography's rubbish.
Yeah. So, and then we've got a Japanese lad as well. So Endo had 14,200 miles because he had to fly to Tokyo and then to Sharjah, the 2 home matches. And he had to cross 17 time zones.
Yeah.
We have Mac at 15,100 miles. He had the most mileage to cover. Buenos Aires and then Colombia. And he had 12 time zones to cover. Diaz had 12 time zones to cover at 12,500. Ali had 12,700. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5 lads that have done more than 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
There's no surprise that which of those play well?
Well, Mac was probably our best player, I thought, but there you go.
But then he had to come off because he was knackered. So just for a quick reference, right? The people talk about intensity, whatever. We'll talk about the game in more detail.
Do we have?
But we were at this season. We're at 182 sprints per game.
Yes.
Yeah, 141 sprints in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That tells you everything you need, given that we've had more possession in games this season as well. And also given
the nature of their winning goal as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to finish fatigue index, right? So we got lads that are spiking because they hadn't played, and then they played in the internationals, but then also the massive impact of travel. So we got within the realms of what's normal for acute chronic fatigue index. We got Mac was at 1.85. That's about as high as it ever gets. Mm-hmm. So he typically wouldn't be played. I looked back at, when the time when he had to come off half-time because last season...
On the oxygen mask before Wolves, yeah.
Yeah, 1.68 he was. He would have been then. He was at 1.68 and he was at 1.85 this time. Yeah. Just from the extra travel.
So, Barts, right?
Yeah.
It's horrendous. So the Arne Slot coming in from, okay, he's had international players before, but having this level of endurance placed on the squad, to go out and do this. There was no good choices to be made here, was there? Everybody's travelling, everybody's playing 2 games. It's crazy.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think that's fair, and I think the travel the size down there highlights it even more. But I think some of the European lads didn't travel as far, not as many time zones, so there would have been less red, if that makes sense.
Less red,
maybe less red. They're still red, right?
Yeah.
But the thing for me is, you can get them out on the pitch, and they're an injury risk, but that isn't what dumps performance. It's the proprioception, it's the tiredness in your brain that fires those patterns, which means, we've said this time and time again, first touch goes. How many times? I saw Mo Salah miscontrol the ball 4 times in that game. Yeah, 2 pods ago when I was last on, we were talking about how brilliant his first touch was. Might be the most underrated skill he's ever had.
How many times?
When Mo Salah's doing that, he's done that. And the overhit passing is
the terrible passes in the final third.
Yeah. Because you haven't got the feel of the ball. You haven't, and that all comes from neurological fatigue. Physically, you can get a player out there, right? They can go through the motions for you. I mean, they won't, but I'm just saying they can do what they need to do. But it's the on-ball quality that suffers the most, I feel, from this level of travel, because they just don't feel the ball right. And if you don't feel the ball right, you don't pass it right, you don't tackle, you don't compete, you don't shoot right, everything's slightly off. And when you're learning, and on the Klopp, we could have rolled it out because we all knew the song sheet.
Yeah.
On the slot, we don't know the song sheet. We're still learning. It's not automatic. So you're having to think about how you control the football that you do every day of your life, whilst also thinking about what page in the book are we trying to run today.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, you didn't have to do that bit. So you got away with the poor control because you just knew what pattern to run.
Yeah. Because it was all ingrained, wasn't it? And it was automatic.
It was, And that's what our problem with Saturday really was. We were trying to learn these new patterns whilst also being absolutely, to be frank, out our arse in terms of proprioception.
Yeah. And it's fair to say at times in that first half we did look like a team of strangers. And that's a really good way of the science behind that kind of, why do you look like a team of strangers here?
The starting 11, but only 6 were red, 5 were green.
Yeah. So, the only realistic option here, right, to somebody who'd come in, which hadn't played, would have been Darwin Núñez, right? Who basically, let's remind ourselves, is the club record transfer, right? So if you're not playing Darwin Núñez after having 2 weeks with him when everybody else has been away, when are you going to play him?
I think you might find that's a question that's returned to you quite a lot, because I've said to you in the chat, I think this is a game. You don't bring him on at 1-0 down, that's dead sub to me. We'll come on to that, because they're going to sit off and they're going to bank it and there's no space for him. Open the game up with him, he's fresh. As you said, he's not fatigued. I mean, Jota didn't, what was he? Was Jota medium red? I don't know, whatever the...
Jota was red as well.
Right, but I'm just saying, maybe he's not as red as Mac, though, was he? Was he not red as Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it would have been off his chance.
Jota just didn't play for a week, and then he played, and then
there you go.
So his average goes down, and then he did. So he's a different type of acute chronic. It's the bit we can't predict this because we don't see training load.
Yeah, so Núñez would have been I think could have been the play, but would that have helped things? I'm not sure, because the guys who are trying to get the ball to him were the ones that we didn't really have options for. Yeah, and they were fatigued.
And the only other options,
argument.
The only other options were Curtis Jones, who's you'd be risking because he's coming back from a muscle injury. Yeah. Chiesi could maybe try throwing in, but again for his debut when he's trying to build up fitness. And then Joe Gomez does just playing a different centre back really move the needle in that much?
Because we've got 2 green centre backs anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the only issue that we'll come on to is they did let Konate have the ball because they knew he had no quality.
Yeah, this is true, actually.
And Gomez has got quality on the ball. So that's the only argument I could make.
Although Nottingham Forest did beat us 2 years ago by just letting Joe Gomez have the ball.
Yeah, true. So it's not much of a change, I'll give you that, but it is it's a slight upgrade, if you know what I mean.
So you were basically damned if you're doing damage you don't with that team selection, other than maybe Núñez. But we talked and when the lineups were announced, I asked you when was the last time we had an unchanged 11 for 3 games in a row, and the answer was
2018-19, the first 3 games of 2018-19.
6 years ago. And I know it's not 4 in a row for us because we started the season with Kwanzaa, but it's been 3.5 games basically of that 11.
But can I say nobody would be able to guess the team as well?
In that 18-19 season?
Yeah.
Is it the one which had Thingy in goal after Alisson got injured against Norwich?
No. So you'd be able to guess. You had to guess the back 4 and the front 3, but you would it's the midfield you wouldn't be able to get.
In 18-19?
Yeah.
Is that not Naby, Jenny, and Fab?
Nope.
You beat West Ham at home, didn't we? First 2 games.
Yeah, it's gonna be Keita.
Yeah.
Keita played.
It wasn't Henderson. Henderson was on the bench.
Jude played, didn't he?
People like to forget that
Keita, Wijnaldum, Milner.
Endo.
Keita, Wijnaldum,
Milner.
Wijnaldum.
Because Fab came in later on, didn't he? Back in sort of season. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we've never had 4 successive league games in a row unchanged under Klopp. Never.
No, I've got data. Not even under Klopp. I've got data going back to 14-15 season, and it's just not happened.
Yeah, crazy.
It's not. So if we're unchanged tomorrow, that sets a record. I'm not convinced we'll be unchanged tomorrow, but that would set a record.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're active in Discord, and we always really focus in on anything posted by Patrick, because Patrick lives in the Netherlands, and he's a big. I think he's a final. Yeah, but he's a really really good football tactics guy, and generally, and when he says something about what Slot tends to do, you listen, and I certainly do listen anyway. And there's 2 things that he said so far that have really stuck with me. First of all, he's not big on youth for youth's sake. So like, unless you're like a super talented teenager, you're not really going to get much of a go. He prefers younger senior players, maybe like the Gravenberch age 21. And the other one is he likes continuity of selection. And
Patrick's already said he expects the same lineup against Milan.
Yeah, he would. He said he wouldn't surprise him if we play the same 11 against Milan.
It wouldn't surprise me if we roll the same side out against Tuesday, which I think is bonkers. But I think knows Slot quite well.
Now, while I have both experts in the room, right, I just want to ask you, right? There's a thing generally in life where it's called generals fighting the last war. So if you're a military general, you always fight the last war that was done because that's the way it was won, right? Now we have in as fans become mortally scarred by the injury crises of the last 4 years of Jurgen, right? But what I'm going to ask you is, based on what you know of the methods of the new guys and the new team, I believe the phrase is periodisation, I think. Have I got that right? What does that mean? And currently we've only got 1 injured player. So what does that mean for things like continuity of selection? But
I took you when you mentioned this, it kind of made me reflect on what I was saying actually, and I think we do need to take that into account. I think we have been scarred by the fact that we meticulously need to manage load and make sure that they're in this level, because that's what we've been used to for 7 years. Slot doesn't believe in that same philosophy, so I think we've already seen he does things differently. Like, bring a player for 60, a player for 30 in a game, and he'll change it around that way. I think,
like Jota came off again. Jota came off earlier again.
Jota came off at 60. I think Trent would. I personally think Trent would have come off at 60 if the game had been going the right way. This Konate came one anyway. Do you know? You can see those patterns that are emerging. I do think he believes in blocks in games, and he'll peak towards what he believes is the important part of the season, which isn't now for him. I think he would be looking at Si's got block 2 or 3, which is later on, towards when the most amount of games. So, although I think you're right, we are sort of learner behaviour of we must do this, because if we don't do this, we get injured. And the only time we won the league was when we did it this way, right? Whereas this guy doesn't believe in that philosophy. Mm-hmm. He believes in something completely different. And he believes in, I'll manage it through something I've actually said quite a lot through the club team is why don't you just take a player up 60, start a player, take them off. It's that kind of way looking at it, matching up. Something I said to you as well, the players that were less red up potentially would have started and brought you better players off for half an hour, so you flip it around the other way. So that's more, I believe, what Slot is looking at rather than a complete change game by game rotation, which Klopp would have done. And I think, as fans, we do need to take a step back and go, it isn't going to be the same. It's something we also said about how long it will take for the players to get used to Slot. This first period, we said was going to be a bit like pre-season, and you got it certainly in the pre-season. So there's going to be a bit of that as he works through and gets through to it. So, and the easiest way to work new patterns in, which ultimately is more important in the medium to long term than results right now, is continuity of selection. Because if your first team get the patterns right quicker, the quicker they're going to do that is by playing together.
Yeah.
If you've got limited game time, limited training time, the only way you're going to get that is by playing them.
Okay.
So I think there's an element of that as well. He's got to get these boys playing his way as quick as he can, and that might be down to something that we're not used to, which is playing them game in, game out, and taking it up early.
Say?
Big difference between Klopp's training methods Pep's previous training methods and Slot's training methods are they prioritise tactical periodisation. Everyone periodises. Tactical periodisation is the philosophy of Raymond, the Twitter egg Verheyen. And ostensibly the difference is all about training is done through football, and managing fatigue and freshness is as close to the highest priority as you'll get in any football training. So I think the three underpinning qualities are managing freshness, are developing fitness through football, and creating football-specific drills to develop decision-making under pressure. They're three things that I can get on board with. But practically what you'll see is much lower physical volumes, intensity in training when you've got matches. So they'll prioritize the loading in matches. So tactical periodization, how you quickly get that is that some people think 3 times, some people think 2 times. Match day playing loads will be programmed throughout a week to develop a player's fitness, and it's much closer to 1-to-1 over the course of a week with tactical periodization, if that kind of makes sense. So there'll be much less. The developmental stuff will be done in a game, and the rest of the stuff will be football-based, tactical-based, keeping players as fresh as possible to try to keep them on the pitch as much as possible. Let's say the evidence of it being successful at both peaking performance and reducing injury is on the low side. But I would say, if you remember, Darth, particularly, I've talked about how successful Chelsea were at having fit players. And Chelsea have been the Premier League, the biggest long-term advocates of tactical periodization brought in by Jose. So, like 2005, he was doing tactical periodization, and they had players that were incredibly available compared to other squads. For 7 years, they had the best.
Was there a season where, like, Branislav Ivanovic started 61 matches or something like that? Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. So,
cyborg or something.
So Chelsea will be the biggest evidence that it works. I'm yet to believe it works. I hope I'm entirely wrong.
So what do we need to look at? What are the indicators as fans without the access to that the new methods are working? Is it the two things you mentioned then? Is it the performance levels?
No.
And secondly, the injury levels?
No, the biggest indicator that is using tactical periodization is that fewer players will play. There'll be much less rotation because they're not training so that they can keep themselves fit for games. The problem comes, I love what you were talking about fighting old previous wars, is that Klopp went through this very much. It took him 2 years to adapt, but the first 6 months was a shit show. He had no idea what was going on. I think this is going to kick Ruben and then Arne in the balls a little bit, because it's really hard to run tactical periodization when you have 2 games every week for 7 weeks in a row. And then somebody else gets your place for 2 weeks. And then it's 2 games again every week for 13 weeks in a row. And then somebody else gets your players again. So you can't periodize training because you're already on training. Does that make sense?
It's
possible when you've got 1 game a week.
Could you tactically periodize 2 11s, like one playing Saturday, one playing a different one playing Wednesday?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
which is where the Harvey injury comes into play, Darth.
Yeah.
Because you don't have another 11 now.
No, unless you play like Morton or something, or
But it doesn't fit the role that's injured.
No.
Well, it's never been done. So training is set up around tactics. So you have a smaller squad to develop these relationships.
Yeah. And injury levels. That's nothing to do with it. That's just an outcome either way, is it?
That's the outcome of success. If it's successful, we'll have much fewer injuries. But also, we've talked about this before. We should have fewer injuries anyway because we've got players with a lower history of injuries than we've had before, and we started to fix that.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.